All right. Okay, guys. I am so sorry. I had some technical issues there. I lost my microphone. So I'm going to have to start over again. So this is about the Nnamdi Kanu sentence today. Nigerians all over the world woke up this morning, November 20th, and it's official. Nnamdi Kanu has been sentenced to life imprisonment for 7 charges of terrorism. That's the breaking news. And I'm going to go over the charges, what he was charged with, um, just so you guys can get a better understanding of the magnitude of this matter. So prior to 2021, I did not know who Nnamdi Kanu was. Never heard of the name, didn't know him. But since April of 2021, I've been following the Nnamdi Kanu trial for the past 4 years. Okay. So these are the charges. This is what he was accused of. And most Nigerians know that Nnamdi Kanu has been imprisoned for several years, but majority of them don't really know the charges. So I'm going to break down each count on what he was charged with, and then we can discuss if the sentence was truly justified, or if it's harsh, or maybe in some cases it could have, because the prosecution was actually going for the death penalty, but it came back life imprisonment. So let's go over the charges. So we are taking a neutral ground here, guys. If you have an opinion on the topic, feel free to post in the chat and let's converse and have a grown up, mature dialogue about the matter. So this is charge number one. He was charged with terrorism financing and directing violence. So the prosecution was able to prove that that he gave instructions that led to the deadly attacks on both civilians and Nigerian security forces. By security forces, we are talking about anyone within a uniform, from soldiers to police. They were able to prove that he financed the attacks on both civilians and security forces. So he was found guilty on that charge. So that's charge number one. The second charge is incitement of public disorder. So the government, the prosecution was able to prove that Nnamdi Kanu broadcasted and encouraging unrest. The government claimed that he's the main guy contributing to the Southeast instability, that everything that's going on in the Southeast right now, as far as instability is concerned, the government is spinning it on Nnamdi Kanu. And they were able to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt that he incited public disorder. That's charge number two. Charge number three, management of a terrorist group, Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB. Guys, this is serious. The Nigerian government designated IPOB a terrorist organization in 2017. They are claiming, or they claim, that Nnamdi Kanu was the person that originated, that he birthed IPOB, that he created IPOB, that was designated in 2017 as a terrorist organization. So the government proved beyond a reasonable doubt of his management of that terrorist group. Okay. Charge number four, giving bomb-making instructions. The government have recordings of Nnamdi Kanu instructing his followers to quote unquote learn how to make bombs. He was found guilty of that charge. Charge number 5, this is the sit at home enforcement. Back, I was actually impacted by that. Like I mentioned that in the previous video that was disconnected. So this is when in the southeastern part of the country, on every Monday, they prevented people from actually moving. Like you couldn't travel through Southeast Nigeria doing that stay at home movement. So the government claimed that Nnamdi Kanu was responsible for directing and he contributed to economic shutdowns as a result of the stay at home enforcement. Charge number 5. The 6th charge, illegal extradition issues, not enough to stop trial. The defense argued his rendition from Kenya made his Nigerian trial invalid. The prosecution was able to counter that, leading to his conviction on count number 6, illegal extradition issues, not enough to stop trial. So he was guilty, found guilty of that. The final and 7th charge, threats to national security. The government was able to prove that Nnamdi Kanu made statements calling for armed struggle for Biafra. You see, my grandfather fought in the Nigerian-Biafran war. He fought for the Nigerian government in that war. That war, I believe 3 million, no, obviously that war was before Nnamdi Kanu's time. But the southeastern part of Nigeria wanted to secede from the country. This particular war, the Biafra, was actually led by a guy named Chukwu Odumegu Ojukwu. So 3 million Nigerians starved. If you guys have ever seen like the kwashiorkor babies, like the malnutrition kids of Nigeria, that was originated from the Biafran, largely from the Biafran war. So it was really a big deal. So these 7 charges, according to the government, according to the federal government of Nigeria, warranted a life sentence for Nnamdi Kanu, meaning Nnamdi Kanu will probably, if this is upheld, because it still has to go through the appellate system, automatically when you are sentenced to life imprisonment like that, it triggers an appeal, automatic appeal. Now, if that sentence is upheld by the courts, it's more than likely going to go up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court upholds the sentence, then the only thing or the only person that can save Nnamdi Kanu or commute or pardon Nnamdi Kanu is a sitting president. Whether that sitting president is President Bola Tinubu or not is to be determined. It looks, from the looks of things, that Nnamdi Kanu may never see free land or free sun again, because the government was actually going for a death sentence. So that was struck out. So we know that that's not going to happen, CJ. Yes, if Obi wins, he will be pressured a lot but that is a big if. That is a big if. But let's really look at these allegations, guys. Remember, we are an intelligent audience. The people who follow me, highly intelligent. People who listen to me, highly intelligent. So please, guys, let's address this as from a neutral ground. It's okay for you to state your points, but I'm not on here to take sides. The reason I'm even talking about this is because It's an unprecedented trial, meaning the closest thing that comes close to this that I can remember, and I'm 47 years old, I was born and raised in Nigeria, was what happened in 1996, 97 with the Ken Saro-Wiwa. If you guys know that, if you are my age, you know, and you are tuned into Nigeria, you know who I'm talking about. I think they call them like the Ogoni 4 or the Ogoni 5 or something. They were convicted and they were swiftly, it was as if they convicted them today, they sentenced them to death today, they executed them the next day. It was that fast. And that happened under the um, the regime of Sani Abacha. That is the closest thing that I remember to the Nnamdi Kanu matter as far as terrorism. This is no joke. This is a big deal. And it puts a lot of people, it should put a lot of people I won't say on guard. I will probably say that the government plays no games when it comes to these terrorism charges. These are serious crimes. And from looking at the way that the trial played out, at least obviously in the federal system, cameras are not allowed in the courthouse in the federal system. In states, cameras may be allowed. So we don't really get to see the proceedings in the courts. But from what is shown in the media, they portrayed Nnamdi Kanu as a defiant defendant. And rightfully so. You are accused of serious crimes. You are accused of murdering both civilians and uniformed officers. I think any sensible person, if they feel like they didn't do it, they have every right to be defiant. But when you look at the first count, remember, he doesn't have to actually commit the act himself. But the mere fact that they were able to prove that he was the leader of the group that did it, that was what the conviction is about. He is claiming that it's not him, that the IPOB is a peaceful group, that they were only voicing their opinion as a marginalized group of people. That was his defense. And the government of Nigeria disagreed with that. If you recall, at one point, he mentioned Akwa Ibom and he was trying to rope in other states. And those state governors were like, we're not part of this. We are not a part of IPOB. I think the governor of Akwa Ibom State was on record saying that whatever it is that Nnamdi Kanu is doing on that side has nothing to do with us. And I think other governments as well jumped on board and said he does not speak directly for our state. So this IPOB thing is only concentrated, even though he attempted to expand it to include the whole of the Southeast, South. And those guys came back and said, no, we are not a part of that of IPOB. Whatever your belief systems are, we are not a part of that. So we struck that down immediately. The bottom line is this. He went through the system. He hired attorneys. He had a strong defense team. But the government was able to prove beyond a shadow of doubt that Nnamdi Kanu was responsible and found guilty of these charges. Guys, the way that it looks, whether you side with Nnamdi Kanu or not, it appears that he may not see the free world again. And from my understanding, not every leader in Igbo land wants him out. To be frank with you, there are some leaders in Igbo land right now that are probably drinking to his detriment at the moment because they don't want to see him out. Okay. So, Bola, we're going to get to Obi in a second, CJ. You see, guys, I'm based in the United States. You have to pledge allegiance to the flag as a United States citizen. You pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. You pledge allegiance to the republic of which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That is the allegiance. The president of Nigeria didn't pledge allegiance to prosecutors. He did not pledge allegiance to the defense attorneys. He did not pledge allegiance to Nnamdi Kanu. The president of Nigeria pledged allegiance to the Republic of Nigeria. So this is a very easy decision for Bola Tinubu. If it gets up to him, he has to think of what is in the best interest of the country first and foremost. Even if it means he is not re-elected, he is not put in place to make popular decisions. He is not there to win the popular vote. He is there to represent the Nigerian Republic. So when it comes to this matter, and remember, he has an election coming up. He has an election coming up. He's got to be able to factor him. Now, for instance, if you were to, let's say, if everything goes to his desk, let's say the Supreme Court upholds and say, no, he's got to stay in jail, he's got to do life. And then it's up to the president because he has the presidential power to let Nnamdi Kanu walk free today if he wants to. He can even commute Nnamdi Kanu's sentence tomorrow if he wants to. Well, he can't really commute. Normally, yeah, I kind of guess he can commute or maybe life to maybe 20, 30 years in jail. So let me ask, do you think justice was truly served? Again, you have to form your conclusions. Because the only reason I'm talking about this, like I told you guys before, is because it's unprecedented. I may not see a trial, and I hope to not see a trial like this again in my lifetime. Because the last time I saw something like this was about 20-something years ago. He's going to have a choice to make. A lot of people, as a result of this, remember, this is just as serious as the insecurity that's happening right now across Nigeria. The only difference is with IPOB, there's a figurehead. There is somebody directly to hold accountable and to blame with IPOB. With all of the insecurities that's happening on the northern side of Nigeria, they haven't really nabbed or they can't really identify who the main leader is to hold accountable. So Nnamdi Kanu is like the face and voice of everything, even though some things that happen may not even be linked to Nnamdi Kanu. Let's be honest. If a guy walks up the street right now and steals and robs a bank, they'll blame it on Nnamdi Kanu. If there's any sort of unrest or a small riot that happens, is blamed on Nnamdi Kanu. because that's the brand that the government was able to associate him with. I feel you feel like he's been scapegoated. I agree that he's been scapegoated in a way, but they have to make it an example though. And that is what makes it bad. You see, the government can allow this to go scot-free. Because if you do that, what you're essentially doing is you're opening up the floodgates to crime. So they have to make a clear example out of him to deter others. That is why I'm saying that he's not going to, let me tell you something. He is going to do some time, prison time. Whether he does life or is to be determined. At least if they don't kill him, he has a shot to maybe one day getting out. But then it's like, what is the condition? Is it life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, meaning he will never ever see the free earth again? Or is it life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after, let's say, 20 or 30 years? So if Obi wins, he will be pressured a lot. You see, he's got to campaign now on that matter. Think about it for a second. So if he's on a campaign trail, reporters are going to ask him, Nnamdi Kanu is in jail. What are you going to do if you have president? On the campaign trail. A lot of northerners are not going to vote for him if he says, I'll release him or I'll look into the matter of this. They are not. And Tinubu is in a situation where Tinubu cannot, before this election, even if it's in his heart to pardon or commute his sentence. If that were the case, he has to wait until the end of his second term. You see, when you are a lame duck president, you can do that. But he has to win the second term first, which is going to be so at least for the next couple of years. So while Nnamdi Kanu is fighting his appeal, he's going to remain in jail. And maybe and only maybe, if let's say if Tinubu wins, or even if Obi wins, even if Obi wins, Obi is not going to let him go on the first term though, because that will risk his second term election opportunities if he allows that to happen. Will there be unrest in the East? I really hope not. I think that, listen, before now, there's going to be a lot of law enforcement deployed to the southeastern part of Nigeria right now. Best believe it. The commissioner of police is already on top of that matter right now. And there may even be a curfew in the southeastern part of Nigeria based on this conviction. Who does that affect? That still affects the economy of the southeastern part of Nigeria if there's a curfew, because everything shuts down. You see, picketing is okay. You can go and picket and protest, but do so lawfully. I think that is allowed. But taking off to the streets, burning properties, causing bodily harm to other people in the southeast does not help Nnamdi Kanu's case. It does not. It actually makes him look even worse. Because they're going to say, you see, we told you. This is the reason. So who do you really have to blame in this matter? Whether IPOB was a peaceful group that advocated for the rights of the Igbo land or not. The problem is that the government was able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he was financing the killings of civilians and security officers. He was caught on tape. Let me tell you, you can't cross-examine audio recording. Now your voice, now you be that. You cannot cross-examine audio recording. They surveyed him for a long time, gathering intelligence to be able to obtain the recordings of him allegedly telling people to go and learn how to make bombs. It's a serious matter. I feel like he's not shown any remorse. That's another thing too, is remember, he was always very, very defiant. Again, we only see half of the story. We don't know what triggered it, but based on what you see in the media, you always see him. He was kind of very defiant. Like, who do you think you are? You can't prosecute me. I was living in Kenya, so this is an illegal trial. I mean, he was very, very hardcore as far as like his defense go, and that didn't really bode well for him. You see, at this point, we will tell if he's going to show some remorse, because life imprisonment in Kiri more than likely is going to go to Kirikiri. This is the federal prison in Nigeria. You can't do life in Kirikiri. I don't even think that that's even possible. People die before their term is over. It's very hard for you to do life. Kirikiri is not a place that you go to, no matter who you are, and serving a life sentence. You are not going to make it out of there. So do you think the scapegoating is related to US pressure against insecurity? I think that's a very, very good question. You see, the government of Nigeria, particularly President Tinubu, really has to take a hardline position on this. Because if Tinubu commutes Nnamdi Kanu's sentence today, he's opened up the floodgate for insecurities in the northern part. He has. If he truly wants to solve insecurity issues, you have to deter others. And if it takes you sacrificing one person in the name of Nnamdi Kanu scapegoating, quote unquote scapegoating, to prevent 200 million copycats, what would you do if you were in that position? Remember, your allegiance is to the country. Your allegiance is not to a particular individual or particular citizen. Nigeria has to show strength against terrorism. Again, I don't know Nnamdi. Like I said, I've only just learned of Nnamdi Kanu 3-4 years ago. And it's just today that I looked up his crime. Because to be quite honest with you, I personally knew, just as a former soldier, I just knew that there's no way he's going scot-free. I just knew it. You don't hold somebody for as long as the government held him. Remember, the government held him for 7 years. You don't hold somebody for 7 years only for you to let them go scot-free. It doesn't work like that. Remember, they didn't even give him bond to fight his case. He wasn't even allowed bond because he was considered a flight risk. And he was considered a threat to society. That was why they kept him imprisoned. Tinubu should start again. I don't really hear too much about Tinubu. Tinubu is he's always talking about poor people now. But it really needs to start. He needs to unify Nigeria. But you see, Tinubu doesn't even have to speak. You see, the president of the United States, the president of Nigeria, he doesn't even have to really speak about the Nnamdi Kanu matter. He's above that. Is the Attorney General, whatever Tinubu has to say, has to flow through his attorney general or the secretary of the Republic of Nigeria, like the spokesperson for Tinubu. For Tinubu to get on stage right now and start talking about the Nnamdi Kanu matter doesn't help Tinubu's presidency. So I don't see Tinubu doing that. Remember, Tinubu is a politician. Unlike if this was like Donald Trump would have just said, bring him out the next day, take his clothes off and hang him on the tree. That's just Donald Trump brand. But remember, Donald Trump is not really a politician. He's a businessman who just happens to run for office and win. But in Tinubu's case, it really has to still pander because he still needs that Igbo constituency to vote for him. And remember, just because so this judge that handed him this sentence, and like I said in the previous video, I didn't know that you could convict and sentence the same day. Normally, when you convict, you have to go through a pre-sentencing phase. At least in the US system, you got to go through a pre-sentencing phase, which can take anywhere from a few days to maybe even a few months. And then you come down and hand over your sentence. But in this case, it's as if they had already made up their mind that if he's guilty, he's going to go away for life. That is why he was sentenced the same day he was convicted. Remember, today is the November 20th. He was convicted today and sentenced the same day. And the judge that sentenced him, I think it's that judge Omotosho, so it's not an Igbo judge. So guys, please don't make this a tribal issue. I think even an Igbo judge, based on the evidence that was presented, based on the evidence he had, would still have sentenced him to life imprisonment. Because this is not hearsay. This is all about evidence presented. And unfortunately for him, his defense were not able to convince one person that he wasn't guilty of these charges. Okay. So he wasn't properly extradited for the trial. How do you properly extradite somebody? Was he kidnapped? I think that's the only way you can take him out of Kenya is if you were to kidnap him. Other than that, I'm sure that the Nigerian government and the Kenyan government got together and agreed through normal legal proceedings that he did. But he fled though. Did he not flee to Kenya to avoid trial? That's another factor. So it's like when we say properly, how do you properly extradite somebody that fled the country to avoid prosecution? So no matter what happened between that, whatever that case happened between the Nigerian government and the Kenyan government. But I still felt that you can't listen if you are facing legal issues. If people have accused you of something, I think it's within your rights. Especially, I mean, it's not as if Nnamdi Kanu is saying he's not Nigerian. He's a Nigerian, right? And the land is accusing you of these crimes. I think it only makes sense and it's only fair to come and face whatever the charges are and build a defense around those charges, which I think he did. But unfortunately, in this case, he was convicted. There was the issue of the changing of Igbo street names in Lagos, the demolitions, etc. Igbo felt marginalized. Over his street's name. Okay. Yeah, they kidnapped. They just went in and grabbed him and put him in a case and brought him to Nigeria. Is that what happened? I didn't know that too. Again, like I said, guys, I don't know him. I've just started hearing about him 4 years ago. So they just nabbed him like that and brought him back. That's sad. Okay, fine. So they kidnapped him. That's again that he had to come back one way or another. He couldn't have been in Kenya. I mean, does Kenya have a non-extradition treaty with Nigeria? You'll be interested. I'm going to go back actually and read upon that. Say allegedly. He was allegedly kidnapped. so, so that guys, that's the breaking news, man. Listen, we all want to save Nigeria, guys. We all want to save Nigeria, but do you think justice was served? Let's say, form your own conclusions on this. I'm not going to speak much beyond that. The bottom line is he went through a trial for many, many years. He put up a defense, not unless he can come back and say that he had incompetent lawyers. I mean, I say Wiki, Nnamdi Kanu can do that. Maybe in his appeal, he can say he had incompetent lawyers who couldn't really defend his case. But Omotosho said here, so the verdict, why life imprisonment? Omotosho said that's the judge that sentenced him, that death penalty is allowed under Nigerian law. But global threat is to avoid death penalty. Life sentence, seen as strict but humane. And his objective for that is to deter future unrest. Man, they are locking him up and throwing away the key. So based on just to analyze this, he was very close to being sentenced to death. Very, very close to be sentenced to death. But they are looking at, yes, he is correct. The world is moving away from death penalties. I mean, in this case, although Wike did not, although Kano did not physically harm people, he led an organization that did, according to the Nigerian government. So, life imprisonment on some of the counts, 20 years on others, and 5 years on others. So, all of them is going to run together. And they are running concurrently. They are not running consecutively. So consecutively means it will serve 5, and then that sentence will finish. And then the 20-year sentence will start from 0. Then when that one finishes, then the life sentence will start. But in this case, everything runs together, meaning it runs concurrently. Okay. So that is it, guys. The question is, do we trust Nigeria's judiciary? Hey, look, it's not perfect, but it's the best. At least it's better than the judiciary system in the during the dictatorship eras that we experienced. Where it was remember the military tribunal era. At least the democratic judicial system is better. He was tried by the jury of his peers, and he was convicted of 7 charges, some 5 years, some 20 years. But I think the one that carried the life sentence is the terrorism financing. But I listen, I wish him the best. It will be interesting to see how the country recovers from this. I want to see the southeast part of Nigeria live to its full potential. We just can't have this. We can't have this unrest, whether it's caused by Nnamdi Kanu on the southeastern part of Nigeria or caused by others. But unfortunately, they have to use him as a scapegoat. They just have to. They have to scapegoat him to say, if you follow this pathway, this is what's going to become of you. Like I said, This is a once in a generation trial. I may not see a trial like this again in my lifetime. The Kensarera one was the closest thing that I can think of. Maybe something may have happened in the 60s or 70s as far as like treason is concerned, or terrorism. This is not even treason, sir. This is terrorism. This is serious. Okay. So yeah, anyway, I will wrap from there. What do you guys think? MKO Abiola wasn't tried of terrorism, he was tried for treason. I remember that era. You see, Abiola, let me tell you what did Abiola in. A lot of people don't know this story. Abiola actually was the one that did himself in by announcing that he was the rightful president of Nigeria when Abacha was sitting as the head of state. If you were Abacha, what would you have done? Remember, that time period was a military time period. It was literally the change of guards. And secretly behind the scenes, guys, if you don't know, it was Sani Abacha that saved Babangida's life. During Babangida's Gideon Oka, Mamman Vatsa coup attempt, it was Abacha that saved Babangida. So when Babangida stepped aside and they had that interim government of Ernest Shonekan, I'm giving you guys history because I was there, of Ernest Shonekan. Abacha was the chief of defense staff of Ernest Shonekan, a civilian head of state that was not even elected. You see, it's one thing if he was elected. You see, when they place you, when you are a placeholder leader and you were not elected by the people, it was only a matter of time. I'm able to understand this more now because I've since been in the military and I know how it works. So the chief of defense staff was basically the protector of Ernest Shonekan. Ernest Shonekan did not stand a chance. What Babangida could have done to prevent the Abacha takeover was he could have retired Abacha when he left or before he left. But that would have proved unpopular. They would have looked, people in the military guards, like the military would have looked at Babangida as a traitor. So he purposefully left Abacha as a protector of Shonekan. You see, you can't have the fox guarding the hen house. That's exactly what happened. And after several months of Shonekan's so-called placeholder presidency, the chief of defense staff just called him into his office and said, oh, boy, you don't finish for you. Sign this paper and tell everybody that you resigned. That was what happened. What is Shonekan going to do? He didn't have the command of anything. Abacha had the command of the armed forces of Nigeria as the chief of defense staff, meaning he's the number one soldier. That was what happened in that era. And then Abiola went on a parade. He went on a global media circuit saying that he was the president. And then this was a nail in the coffin. When they asked him, okay, as president, now what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to sack all of them. I'm going to retire them with benefits. I mean, he was saying this when Abacha was the man. That was what happened. So MKO Abiola was not jailed for terrorism like this guy, Nnamdi Kanu. He was jailed more for treason. And He died in prison as a result of poor health. So did you see my question about the diaspora development panel in your previous? I thought I answered it. Was there a specific question you had on that? What is your definition of a diaspora development panel? Yeah, I thought I answered that. That was why Peter Obi didn't protest and went to court after the election instead. You mean when he got impeached? He went through the court system when he got impeached. And you mean as the governor of Anambra State? Yeah, you really got to be careful what you say. Nigeria is still, yes, we know Nigeria is a democratic country, but our own free speech and the Western free speech is different. Oh, I asked if you could host a panel with some diasporans that are doing business or other successful activities in Nigeria and any barriers or struggles. I can put that together. I think that's actually going to be a good idea. Yes. Yeah, but did he win? Did Obi win the election? He did not now. He came in third place, didn't he? He came in after, what's his name? Atiku. Did he even win the popular vote? He did not win the popular vote. He did not. So Obi was a third. Obi won third place. He allegedly won. So he did the right thing now. He went through the court system that upheld and still ratified Tinubu as president of Nigeria. You see, it's treason though. You can't listen. Tinubu was sworn in. The moment Tinubu was sworn in, that was a wrap. That was a wrap for Peter Obi and Atiku. I think Atiku sued too, Seth. It wasn't just Peter Obi that sued. Atiku went through the court system and sued as well. But the court still upheld Tinubu's election as the winner. Yeah. You can't do that. Listen, he's doing the right, even though right now I don't really know this whole coalition thing that he's doing with the ADC and stuff like that. But I feel personally that he could have stayed with the Labour Party and just ran for office again. Obi is still young. Obi is not that old. He's still a young man. He looks young. He looks healthy. So he has many years ahead of him to be able to run for presidency. But I felt like he could have stayed and just built the Labour Party. He could have just been the bona fide face of the Labour Party. But when you leave the Labour, I don't know if he has left completely, but now he's joining this coalition of politicians with ADC as the second majority party to the APC now. So now it's like, what becomes of the Labour Party? Remember, this is the party that helped you campaign for the presidency. So then why didn't you stay with them? So people may be looking at Obi as somebody that just jumps from one party to another. Atiku is a master at that. And that is why people don't really. Atiku has been campaigning to be president of Nigeria for many, many years because he just goes from one party to the next, APC, the PDP. So, he's all over the place. So, Obi leaving Labour Party to join ADC now just shows that where's the loyalty? Where's the commitment? So, if he hasn't left, the coalition is confusing even to me. So if he hasn't left the Labour Party, then which party is he planning on running? Because here's the thing, guys. You see, you can't have two captains on a ship. In his case, you have Atiku that's still seriously and actively campaigning to be president. And then you have, hey girls. All right, I'll say I'm still on my live. Yeah. I love you. I'll see you soon. I'll see you soon. so, so, so you have Atiku, right, and Obi in the same party. Obi has come out publicly and said that he's not interested in becoming anybody's vice president. Meaning he only wants to run for the number one position. Atiku has also come out and said that he's only interested in becoming president of Nigeria. So then what is going to happen if you have the two primary candidates in one party? One has to step down. Obi has said he's not. Atiku didn't really say he's not going to be vice, because he has already become a vice president. Why would he want to be vice president again? His mission is to become the president of Nigeria. So then what is going to happen? There can only be one presidential candidate in each party. So then does Obi then go back to the Labour Party? Does he? Or does Atiku go back to PDP? And then when they do that, then what becomes of ADC? So I really think that the mistake that he made was not leaving the Labour Party, was joining the ADC coalition. I think he's hedging his bets for where he gets a ticket. They were also trying to box Obi into being vice president. He's not interested in being vice president. He's only interested in the top spot. But you know what? That might be something he should probably consider. That means he's going to run he's going to run on Atiku's ticket. Because I don't see Obi becoming the number one guy at ADC. Because they actually built ADC for and around Atiku. So Obi can't just come in and bump Atiku out to take his spot. So now, they have run together before. He's still in Labour. Atiku left PDP. Yes, I know. Where did they run together? In what party did Atiku and Obi run together? What party is that one? Presidential? Yeah. But again, Atiku and Obi a few years ago, PDP. I don't know. I don't know if Atiku and Obi has run together before. Yeah. If somebody knows, please post in the comment section. I don't know if that's true or not. But Labour Party is not happy with him. They are feeling like he's got one foot in and one foot out, and he's not dedicated and he's not loyal. Maybe Obi has actually looked and maybe he felt that he may not, just like CJ said, he may not get the tickets with the Labour Party again, because the Labour Party is not as structured as the other two. And then we can all, at this point, PDP is basically on life support at this point. And APC is in power. So I think they can put up a good fight. No one is saying that it's going to be a landslide for Bola Tinubu. We are not saying that. I think they can put up a good fight if they have a good case. Because Obi has a very loyal following. I just felt like he should have cultivated that following more instead of mixing it with Atiku. Because a lot of people just don't like Atiku. They just don't. Atiku will never become the president of Nigeria. The highest he will ever be was the vice presidency. He will never become the president of Nigeria. They just don't like him. But Obi should have cultivated that Labour Party movement more. Maybe take some. The guy is active on social media. He's still speaking to his base. But now Obi's base is a little bit confused now because they don't know what ADC is. They don't know his relationship with ADC. They know him as the face and voice of uh Labour Party. So strategically, I think that was a wrong move. That was a wrong move for Obi to not put all of his efforts and his energy on building the Labour Party. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna wrap this up. CJ, as always, thanks for your time. And yes, message me on WhatsApp. I give you my WhatsApp number. I would love to get the panel of diasporans together that are doing. Actually, let me snap it. Let me snap it, and I can go and watch, so I can review this further. Yeah, so a panel of diasporans that are doing business on other successful activities in Nigeria and any barriers or struggles. I think that would be a nice panel to have. I can definitely put that together. Yes, 702. Let me type it in. This is my WhatsApp. Right there. All right. You got that, CJ. Hey guys, thank you for your time. Go back and watch this from the beginning. Check out the other videos. And please like, share, comment, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right. Catch you guys another time. Bye.